All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull this clutch cover now to release your clutch here. It says that right on there, but go ahead and take these two Phillips screws, and your adjustment is in underneath of these. So I'm just gonna show you what that looked like under there. There's your two adjusters. You got your 12 millimeter there, 12 millimeter there, locking nuts there. You got your oil fill here, takes 2.2 liters. We've got 14 8mm bolts all the way around this that I removed just to save time. So these you're able to pull off there. I've got your clutches in behind here. Here's your clutch arm. Attaches to your shift linkage that runs all the way through there to the other side. We got a 15/16 deep socket, and hold these so it doesn't spin. We've already removed your cam chain, but just in case you don't have that other side off all the way, make sure you hold this so your motor doesn't spin. Got that nut pulled off. Now you like to find a groove right here, and then there's one more back here. So find that groove, and I'll show you. If you have that groove, these teeth will line up right with that, and you're able to pull this centrifugal clutch mechanism off without removing your clutch pack. Here's your inner centrifugal clutch. We've got a one-way bearing down here, and then this is what they call your housing or your outer gear of your centrifugal clutch. So to remove your primary clutch then, 10mm bolts, and I do these just little by little because they are spring loaded. And I've seen these break if you take one off, then the next one off, and then go over and take the next one off. So make sure you do a crisscross pattern just a little bit at a time. All right, we've got this off. Now we're going to go ahead and remove this nut in the middle there. Again, holding it so it doesn't move, I just grab a post here. Unbolt it there. I like to make sure it slides up. Then what I do is put this back on there, tighten these up. That keeps all the plates together. Otherwise, if you just grab this hub here, I'll show you. Just snug those up. Now what you can do is just pull this off just like that. And you're able just to inspect your basket without having to take everything apart there and get it back together. So clutch basket there. There's a spacer on behind it. Now I've got your shift mechanism, your shift shaft that runs all the way through, like I said earlier. We'll pull this 10mm. And then that'll just kind of slide that up. That pushed it all the way through for us. And that is a long shift shaft there. And that arm goes on it. Oil pump here, and we've got 3 Phillips screws holding that on. Those can be a challenge. We'll take that off here in a little bit. Go ahead and pull your oil filter cover. Just 2 Phillips, there's your oil filter there. Kind of made a mess for us. Now on these, we can't get our impact driver down in here on these. So what I do, take a Phillips screwdriver, and this is a number 3 Phillips screwdriver. And I just I put a little pressure on it, turning it, and tap on it. And that'll loosen it right up. Now if you can't get that done, look for my video on removing Phillips screws without an impact driver, and I've got about 4 different ways to remove a Phillips screw if you've got it stripped out or rounded out, or even before you get to that point. So check that video out so you know how to remove those without an impact driver. Impact drivers are nice, just take a little less time, but there hasn't been a whole lot of screws I haven't been able to get with some of my methods on removing stripped out screws. I do the same thing over on these. And since I have one of these, I'm just going to use it. These don't need to come out to split this case, but we'll just do it, loosen these up. This is a Matco, like I said earlier, and it just works incredibly well. I was looking for it's ID67 is the Matco number on there, and it just works incredibly removing these Phillips screws. 10 millimeter for this shift linkage here. It's spring loaded. Not tight enough you'd lose a finger probably. Alright, we've got, let's see, oil pumps ready to come out, the cover is, and then we'll spin this. And you can line it up, spin it until you line up so you see 3 bolts right in the middle of each hole. And that is when you know, those are the 3 bolts you have to take out. There's an extra one in this oil pump to kind of hold the oil pump together. And if you spin that oil pump enough times, you'll get to the point where you can see 3 Phillips heads at one time. Now, we'll take and we'll just kind of move this back and forth. There's a gasket in behind this oil pump that kind of holds it tight. So you kind of wiggle it back and forth, it'll break that seal, and you can pull that oil pump off there. We've got a screen here, as you can see, we've got all kinds of silicone that was built up in there. All right, here's your counter shaft. Crankshaft balancer there. We'll remove this. That's got a Woodruff key holding this into place. So sometimes people ask me how to line these up. Some of them you don't have any, well, all these Bayous are exactly like this, but there's some models you don't have anything but a dot to line it up. So those are a little bit more challenging. Now, to get this spanner nut out of here, take a flat screwdriver, and you'll see these pins here. There'll be at least 1, sometimes 2, if it lines up right, of these pins that are holding this nut on. And we'll see if we can get it with a screwdriver. Sometimes you got to use well, they make a special wrench for it, but I don't have the special wrench, and it makes it a bit of a challenge when it's spinning, but sometimes you can get it to catch on that crank balancer. We're gonna have to get a punch there to get that apart. Obviously, when we go back together, we're going to need a new one of these nuts. Might be right hand threaded. What I do a lot of times, we'll take, well, we got a washer on here, and I make a mark so I know if I'm moving or not. And I don't know 100% which direction this goes, but I'm betting I'm going to find out. I'm sure you guys will tell me, but by then I'll have it off. It has moved a little bit that way, but I feel like we'll just tighten it up. So I'm going to spin it back the other way. Once we get to that counterbalancer. Yep, should have just went with what I was going for first, but they sometimes will put on here clockwise threads, because when this crankshaft is spinning, it'll tighten itself up. In this case, it had that keeper that would keep that nut from loosening, but I've seen them before where they've done both. Put it on there reversed and had a keeper. So we're going to flip this motor over again and we'll get ready to split this. Got a whole bunch of 8mm bolts again. And we'll try to count them so we know for you how many we have to take off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Alright, we have 17 so far. Not 100% sure I didn't miss them all. Just try to buzz around there. Okay, 17 is what I have. Seems like there's generally one that's hiding somewhere. But there wasn't this time. 17 bolts. Alright, now once we get that case kind of broke open there, I like to take and I like to lean it one direction or the other. And that kind of just keeps everything into one side. If we've got stuff falling either direction, it just makes it a little bit difficult. Boy, it almost feels like we're missing one at the bottom here. Top split apart nicely. Nothing coming in from this side. There's a spot right here that you can pry without damaging the gasket area. And right here, there's another place. I think we're catching up right where this motor bolt went through. I think that's where we're catching, so. Very carefully so I'm not getting into those fins, I just tapped on this aluminum piece here. You don't have to hit very hard and very long for that to do what it's supposed to do there. Alright, once you get it out far enough, you're able just to pull it off there. Then we've got our internals on this motor. We've got the crankshaft here. This is the balancer. This is where this woodruff key went here. It's kind of a half moon. This gear here. And then one of those larger nuts. Got your shift drum here, it fell off when we were banging it around. Got your shift forks, and if you just pull this shaft out, half an inch or less, all those forks and stuff will come out with it. Crankshaft here, we'll get that out. We'll just hit it from the other side with a rubber mallet. You got your oil relief valve there. That's a 17 millimeter to pull that. There's your oil relief. And then your transmission, I like to try to pull it out all at once. That way it kind of keeps everything together. So there is your transmission there. So that is splitting the case. Oh, this crankshaft's just going to be pretty easy to come out. Oh, it's holding up. There's a woodruff key that we're holding up on, so just watch that. And then it should just pop right out. Be careful when you're hitting it out like that, you don't damage anything behind it or damage that crank. So that is splitting the case on a Bayou 300. This is a 4-wheel drive model, but everything is going to be the same except for your output drive assembly, which is this piece here. That's going to be slightly different, but we didn't get too involved in that piece anyways, besides pulling it off. Thanks for watching.